I must say, it's an honor to welcome a very special brother. This is his first time on the Then and Now. Welcome to the platform, Mr. Sobi.
Thank you very much.
I'll just make a brief introduction. So, Pambulenge for know the person where we talk to. And it happened for me none other than Mr. Patrick B.K. Sobi Jr., who holds a BA honors, LLB honors, a master's honors, LLM, a joint doctorate of law, and policy candidate in Northeastern University School of Law College of Professional Studies. So just this brief resume, imagine how heavy it is. Unfortunately, we don't lose the interest, but hopefully the numbers will generate again. Because you know, say about people in the broadcast. Mr. Sobi, welcome to the program, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. And good evening, viewers, or good morning, as the case may be.
So, Fambule, we have few things to talk about today. We, as soon as see, just like the title says, and that's exactly what we will be following. Okay. Good. So like I've been saying, the backup system, they pick you up. Just the live system, not they pick you up. So I will definitely hear you when we talk.
Okay.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Like I say, we did talk about few things then, yeah, so today. I think we talk about today, the border around politics, the law, and government. That is what all of what we will out here today, they on. So Fambule, I mean, just one for that una know this. Yeah. I be really one for that una know this. So, Mr. Sobi, I want to begin with international law, if you don't really mind. Boku tem, when we can hold with program there, when we salon people and they talk, it can be more domestic rather than international, or using the international for connect to the domestic. And most of the issues that we will talk about, now legal issues then. So today I want to begin with international law. For the benefit of the audience, what do you think, say, Mr. Sobi, now the international connection to the national? In other words, waiting at international law and waiting bring we to connect with international law and within our obligations of countries such as ours within the context of international law, sir.
Oh, well, good evening, viewers. Thank you very much, Mr. Modulator. I'm happy for the year. And for go straight to the point, and international laws, or otherwise known as public international law, these are norms, rules, acceptable standards, guiding principles that are established using the normative guidelines and common conceptual framework that guides states. I can break it down for people them. This is not international law them, where some get the force of law, where generally acceptable in the community or in society for member states, and will include the guide states across broad range of domain, will include international law encompass so many things, and it include the law of war, diplomacy, international trade, human rights, international law. It allows for the practice of stable consistencies and organized international relations. And I'm happy for your question because me happy for being an expert in international law. I have an executive master's of law in international human rights, law, economic, and corporate law from Northeastern University. And Northeastern happened for being the best practical law school on the surface of the earth. And after my master's degree, I happened for get a scholarship for doing a PhD in both law and a major in international human rights and policy. I do 2 majors. And currently, we believe say that being at the only Sierra Leonean we get this kind of degree. We do again joint degree what they get in public and international law and major in law and policy.
Right.
Because law international law, these are best practice, I can put out, standard, international standard principles. And I can go on, it derived from Article 38.1 of the International Court of Justice. We talk about treaties, convention, customs, and customary laws that are generally accepted by civilized society. And you say why they can talk about that? And Sierra Leone don't benefit immensely from international law. Sierra Leone is part of the civilized nation. Sierra Leone is the 100 members of the United Nations Organization. And we see some of the laws that they are embedded in the constitution. Like, for example, we have the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone, Act number 6, Chapter 3, Section A down to 15A, B, C, all talk about the duties and obligation of government. You talk about Chapter 2, we talk about the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, the right for free speech were embedded in Chapter 3. And most of the laws here, some are domesticated in Sierra Leone law. What did that mean? Some of them, because of being a part of civilized nation, Sierra Leone also they practice some of their laws here. And Sierra Leone is the member of so many treaties. Like, I can give you an example. We have the Special Court of Sierra Leone and the former President Kaba of blessed memory, and through the government and people of Sierra Leone, they request the United Nations Security Council to the United Nations Security Resolution 1315 of 2002 for inviting the Special Court through in diplomatic, in permanent representative.
So I want pause you. I want pause you right there. I know say you did in your mid flow, and at the problem now the way you can go tickle somebody in the area of expertise. So I know say yeah, you can just flow. And I wish one day again, that we can come back and talk, because that's something we myself interested in, and interested very much so for lecture with people, and so with people and understand exactly what you say. Unfortunately, we'll not get much of a time. But the connection to Sierra Leone will be the look for now. You be the camp, but I be one zoom in on particular areas. So first of all, my understanding, if I got this right, is Sierra Leone has been part of the civilized world. In other words, the idea that Sierra Leone is part of the United Nations, like that kind of organization, and the UN recognized the international law, the body of international law. Therefore, member states are automatically like sign on, and there's some kind of agreement between them, and the need for respect the agreements. Then they will that be correct, Mr. Sovi?
Yes and no. And yes, and because in international law as principle, best standards, practice, and which countries are legally obligated to be part of. However, under international law, they have treaties, they have what they refer to as ratification and domestication. And some countries are signatories to part of some international laws, but they are not domesticated in their country. That means they don't have the force of law. They have no legal binding effect. But however, there are some laws which are strictly sense to what the lawyer would say, strict liability. They have a force of law, and they are inalienable rights. They are inalienable, like the right of life, the right to life under the Universal Declaration of Human and People Rights of. It's a natural law which demonstrates all over.
Right.
It is all over. Like the right to life, the right to free speech, it is our constitution and international law where it goes across all over. But however, some aspect of international law, until some people they domesticate them or they ratify them. Well, I mean, some countries to be part of the international law, but they are not treaties, they're not signatories to it. Or they can be signatory to international law, to some laws, but they have not domesticated it. That means they're not applying at the country, but we'll come to that. But generally, yes to your question, where me say some laws and where they are in it, then they are best practice according to international standard, and countries get right for obey them. Because if you not obey them, then the UN can sanction you, and they get the special repertoire within our countries. Where, like Sierra Leone get member, they get the ambassador there, where Sierra Leone can send where then people that don't represent their country, they can send reports to the government or to the United Nations where they talk like the country human rights record or like the anti-corruption index or like what have you, or how the country they run. So those are legal obligation of countries. So I can say international law now, general norms. Now you're not able to talk about international law without you not talk about the sources of international law. So Article 38(1) of the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, of the Statute of the International Court of Justice, talk about sources of international laws. And some of these sources include treaties, international treaties. Treaties are legal obligations, bilateral, multilateral obligations or legal agreements that the host country or countries can go into with other parties. It can include countries, a nation country, or it can include international organization. Like I give you one. Sierra Leone, President Kaba used influence as president on behalf of the government of people of Sierra Leone, write a request to the United Nations Security Council, and they ask them for let them carry the special court in Sierra Leone, because Sierra Leone by then not be get the legal infrastructure, they not be get that competent legal, firm legal grip for let them able establish and bring in an international case against people them like former President Taylor, because they go what they call international jurisdiction, the jurisdiction of a case, where means say there are certain matters where the courts get right for talk. And like example, like people like President Taylor wanna be former MPFL rebel commander and a former president. Sierra Leone began a low cost standard there in law, where they say the legal authority or the jurisdiction for trial in Sierra Leone court. So that is why President Kaba used influence through the government of Sierra Leone, and it be request to the United Nations Security Council for let it count the special court. And you get benefit of that, and you get shortcomings of that. We'll go cancel. And when President Kaba asked the United Nations for count things like that, the United Nations be say, yes, well, we agree for count special court, but we'll get forget international agreement we talk say, what do Nasilo do, not to normal go do, because President Kababi only asked them for let them right, for let they can't try the rebels. And the United Nations Security Council, they say, no, we're not going to just can't try the rebellion, or they can't try all people, all leaders will actively take part in the war, we took part in the war, where we regard and we deem say they are culpable or they are responsible. So that is why the special court have a special mandate, where the special court get a strict mandate, which means they came to only try those who bear the greatest responsibility for crimes committed in Sierra Leone as at November 30, 1996. And why are they say so? Because at the given dates they are, because somebody go say, well, why they not be tried people that like other people that will be don't commit crime? Why not only few people there? And when you do international law, they go to call benchmarks. And because of the international law, the special court we get a limited time frame and we get jurisdiction.
Okay.
And mandate. Now that make they try people there only after November 30th, 1996. What we can to later. Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Right. The system kind of slow. So
okay.
But I get you, like I say, with the make contact there. But I really glad for what you articulate so tonight, because this is not something where me self-interested in, and I know say a lot of people are interested in this particular field of yours, which you happen to be like only one of the few, if not the only Sierra Leonean, we get this kind, vast knowledge in this particular area. But again, I did still try for bring we come home, and we don't come home from international law, treaties, bilateral, multilateral, and the rest of it. I believe say you don't articulate them very good enough. So here we come now with the issues of human rights, okay? We come with the issues of human rights. waiting can make the country get obligation if it not sign, like how you say, it not sign on, because again, it gets sovereignty. I think that the word down the countries get sovereignty. If countries are not signed on and not signed and treated in they are not subjected to be penalized by virtue of their law, and they accept they impose some embargo or something on them. And this is not a question, not a statement, because I try for meander my way around for see whether I will pose the question rightfully. So let's say Sierra Leone, for example, has got issues of human rights. And the human rights cannot be solved on the inside because the complaint is against the authority. But then they will have to take this outside for redress. How will a situation of this kind work, Mr. Sove?
Well, I'll tell you, thank you. Now, big question you ask, so when you talk about human rights, and first of all, when you talk about countries, let me a lot of people there. Sierra Leone is a sovereign state. That means a country on its own. And under international law, they have what they call as what they refer to as the principle of sovereign immunity, or the principle of state sovereignty. And where clearly tell you say, because of Sierra Leone, under international law, under principle of state sovereignty, now a country on its own, which is mapped by its own, we get rules, obligations, we get constitution, we get a city president, and where they run EU operations solely on its own. Sierra Leone is an independent state, and history go tell we say Sierra Leone became an independent 1961 from the British, we all know. And through that, we'll get series of constitution there, will lead to USA of the right now, where current constitution are the 1991 Constitution Act number 6, where under philosophy of law, they landed Al Kensley, go tell you say, under the pure theory of law, he will tell you say the constitution is being regarded as the ground norm. Now the highest order, and the highest authority from which the country emanates all its laws. So under that constitution, the 90 rights for people there for make vote, 90 rights for them for go election, 90 rights to them for form parliament, 90 rights for the president where they don't appoint, like section 40 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, they tell you clearly about the functions of the president. And Sierra Leone Constitution, if we don't come home now, and for people then, Sierra Leone 1991 Constitution gets 14 chapters, and it gets 120 sections. So all that they talk about everything we get for being a Sierra Leone, from the right to vote and to be voted for, and the right to the president, and the other thing there. And section 170, section 1 of the Constitution, take a note, they tell you about the various laws the way Sierra Leone gets, with a constitution, international law, customs, convention, and what have you. So that then law, then they guide the country, and they guide all man from which they get other existing laws then. And from there, then laws that they get for go through parliament. And when you talk about then laws here, you talk about the constitution, I want to talk about it in as much as our politics we talk about. They have the 3 organs of government. They have the executive, where they form the president and the cabinet. They get the legislature when at the cabinet, when at the parliament, and they get the judiciary. And for separation of powers and rule of law for operate in the country, then 3 arms of government here get for run independently without interference, and they get for run on its own. But by and large, it they in theory, but not in practice, because they see say like the constitution, you're not able to appoint the chief justice. The only person you get right for appoint the chief justice now the president. The only person we get right for appoint the attorney general now the president under our constitution. The only person we get right for appoint ministers, we get right for hire and fire according to the constitution and the president. So find out say Sierra Leone Constitution, the president have enormous powers. And sometimes, in as much as the president, they can say the president independent or the president devoid from other things, but you see small interference, because if me don't appoint you as Chief Justice, I don't appoint you as Attorney General, then impliedly I get right for fire you. So now then they can make you see someday we can say, oh well, the court's not they doing work, or the judge not they do their work, because the way how they appoint them, it clearly stated that the Constitution and the president they boku power. You get, however, what the other country that they do, then in their institution that they make them very, very powerful through the institutions, and they make them for the independent. Now that they make like America, you find out say one judge they grab a contend with President Trump. He talks, wait here, you talk of this ABC, this will not agree because we are independent. And when you don't turn, once you don't turn justice of the Supreme Court under the United States Constitution, you are there for life. They know they sack you, nobody except you craze or you get something or you do misconduct. So also in Sierra Leone. But your system slightly different because they seem to be independent, but they're not independent at all. So I can cut on this. You get me?
Okay, Mr.
And also, they go to the call judicial independence. They go to the call judicial independence.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. I think say we did on track. Yeah, thank you very much. We did on track in terms of law, politics, and governance, and this is exactly where I want to take you as the guest. But you seem for the way ahead of me. So it doesn't come as a surprise to you then, where what I've been trying to say right there is quite recently, two of the institutions there, them big institutions, very powerful institutions, according to a survey that was carried out, okay, by a civil society group, levy accusation of being the two most corrupt in the country. Imagine in real lifetime, the executive, and that's the office of the presidency, and the legislative body or the House of Parliament were very powerful, outside the people are being represented. Legally speaking, take we through, in terms of we topic here for tonight, which is law, politics, and governance, where you articulate very, very well. So we come back to the issue of corruption, and like what you say, one body so powerful and so corrupt because the president gets so much power, but not constitutional power. So therefore, the Constitution itself, there are question marks and amendments or wukande. But take we through this report we come up quite recently, we accuse two of them major institutions there. Imagine major institutions of corruption. What do they mean? How can we explain this to we people then?
Oh, well, thank you very much. And you talk big English, where I go break down for people then. And as a lawyer, they always let me say you should know your definitions. And these are accusations levied. And the moment we say an accusation as alleged in law, that means it is subject to more findings. And I can tell you, say, like the survey, yeah, I know preview for what the document there is, but myself get on Facebook, I see I would and say, oh, they accuse that the president office and parliament corrupt. But when you say you accuse them, then you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt, and you have to give facts. So for proof, say if they're corrupt or if they're not corrupt. So that's one. Two, and I don't follow up one or two things that will happen through the well of parliament, where I see the parliamentarians themselves the parliament, they use their own force, their own law for caution one or two of the parliamentarians there. I see the caution, the Honorable Giver, and I see the caution, and this Honorable way, and then they come, when they pull them from the Human Rights Committee, when a lawyer, and I see the other Honorable way resign, Tawa, Honorable Tawa Conte, when himself resign. But I want to take you back to the Constitution. And Article 170, subsection 1 of the 1921 Constitution, Act number 6 states, it says the Constitution of Sierra Leone states that the laws of Sierra Leone yes, it said the laws of Sierra Leone shall comprise the following. The Constitution. It says laws made by or under the authority of Parliament as established by the Constitution. It says any other rules, regulations, and other statutory instruments made by any persons or authority pursuant to the power conferred in that behalf by the Constitution or any other laws. It said the existing laws and the common law. And when you go down to a Constitution, Parliament is the supreme lawmaking body in our country. The body, I don't just talk about the three organs of government. When you look at chapter 6 of the 1991 Constitution, it talks about the Parliament, the makeup of Parliament, the requirement to be a parliamentarian, the requirement for do's and don'ts. And because of then a supreme lawmaking body, now then therefore make laws, therefore do them with all honesty and all diligence. But however, because of the nature of the country or because of corruption, or because of lack of checks and balances, we find out say things they happen in our parliaments, that they cannot more, they sign bill, they pass them because of bipartisan interest, and people do not get the country at heart, but they get the country in mind. People then are there your pockets that they not they think about the voters, they will vote them in. And so they get the anomalies there where they happen. This also they talk to the office of the president. Me, Patrick Sovi, no go can and talk say the office of the president corrupt or the office of the parliament corrupt, because not only conduct the survey, and the survey they talk about alleged. The allegation, when you say alleged, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. And they get forgiving one or two instances. But by and large, who self the see what is all man the situation they happen in Sierra Leone. Me not go say yes or me not go say no, but in law they say reps ipsa loquitur in Latin. We mean say the thing speaks for itself. If the office of the president corrupt as alleged, then the country gets serious trouble, because the president is the first gentleman of the country, of the nation. And
so make I just push back, Mr. Sovi, make I just push back on that. Make I just push back on that slightly, and I stand to be corrected, which is when you say they can't charge the allegation them way they make, that it has to be proved beyond all reasonable doubt. Are these cases criminal? As per my understanding, is it not only criminal cases which has to be proved beyond reasonable doubt?
Well, when they say allegation as alleged, you get for proof whether on preponderance of evidence or whether based on reasonable doubt. Because of if not charges, that fine question I asked. Law assumes say me, Patrick Sovi Jr., I want to bring charges against the State House of Sierra Leone or the executive branch of government. I want to go to the court for say, well, based on this survey or based on this research, they don't talk, then say, they don't allege, say, then corrupt. Then I get for proof two things. If now civil claim and they go with, then I get for based on the standard of probability. We mean like now scale, where me your side and the government and the State House on your side. So we're going to court. If not civil case, then the standard of burden of proof is based on probability. But however, if not criminal action I will bring against the state or the State House or Parliament as a citizen of Sierra Leone, then I get for proof beyond reasonable doubt. But what me they say as alleged, if I don't talk say Mr. ABC, Mr. Prince Kroma is corrupt, then I have to prove beyond reasonable doubt, because in law they have what they refer to as slander and libel. And thank God to President Bio, we don't just pull the libel laws we've been in our country for 55 years, and whether they use for Trump or for journalists then. So I'm not going to just bring you to dispute. I'm not going to just make an allegation against you, again for be proven, whether beyond reasonable doubt or based on the preponderance of evidence. So not just that. So like if they get more findings, the people them, they talk, say why they talk so. I believe say they get fact. I know, unfortunately, I'm not privy for watching that. I'm not surveyed.
Absolutely, Mr. Sovi. Now, just for the benefit of time, because I know say you get so many good points the way they make this net and when you get for make that just because of the benefit of time, now make I keep the interject. And I can promise you na family that pretty soon this not enforce them now they can on the platform, but pretty soon we go get them. They talk to we on all the issues they are bordering on the law. Remember, I say this is not legal business now when they talk. So I want to tell the guests, thank you. Famulem, would they talk to none other but Mr. Patrick Sovi Jr., Patrick B.K. Sovi Jr., a distinguished scholar. I don't read in profile already, really heavy, and the issue we talk about, now issue we really, really serious. And this not to then after talk the way people can get, this is bordered on the law. When they talk about things that we get legal remit. Mr. Sovi, earlier on, you've been talk about parliament, and parliament now something we really want for we talk about, because even though two institutions were accused, and you say that they get for prove, say now first of all, an allegation, so it has to be proven. But here when they say parliament for some time now, Mr. Sovi, parliament don't they under duress, they don't they under accusation. That's so much so that even within themselves, with a yearly accusation, some of this accusation will come out not from the people that will conduct the survey. This come out inside Parliament itself, in which two of the characters that we mentioned in persons of Honorable Givao and then Honorable Tawa Conte, they accuse their own very parliament, their own very office, their own very comrade them when they deal with in the place of issues of corruption. And I just want to draw your attention before I go further, that not only first thing this they happen, and this is just wonderful in Sierra Leonean people and stand by just they watch with amazement and very amusing. Some time ago, the same Tawa Conte accused Parliament of corruption, where in the, I believe in the parliamentary clerk, Parantarawali, the hold on, where publicly they wash the dirty linen as I call in public. They accuse each other of corruption. Money they win the give to parliamentary committee then for let them give them parliament come with them for Congo and go do development at them place. Then money then they disappear somehow into thin air. Now so Parantawa the accused Tawa of, while Tawa self be the accuser of something else. These now two parliamentarians then they say this. Inside the constitution, I want you go because you know the constitutional expert here. Section 99, I believe, deals with this specifically, where I believe say there are too many ambiguities, because when you talk about discipline, it not explain very well within a discipline. When you talk about the image and dignity of parliamentarians, it really not explain within the dignity and who for all they're responsible. As a consequence of the ambiguity there, we they see, there's some kind of friction or conflicts or contradictions within parliament. How best can this be addressed, Mr. Sovi, if you go agree with the premise?
Thank you very much, sir. You don't use few big English then, where I will bring down for people then. You talk about duress. You say parliament, they under duress. And you talk about accusation and counter-accusation. And you talk about parliament where the member of parliament that we don't bring allegations against their own people themselves. And I can go straight to the Constitution. And chapter 6, part 1 of the 1991 Constitution, Act number 6, talk about establishment of parliament. And under that chapter, Chapter 73, subsection 1, clearly states, it said, there shall be a legislature of Sierra Leone, which shall be known as Parliament, and shall consist of President, the Speaker, and members of Parliament. So the composition of Parliament, that side they will get in our constitution. When you come down to subsection 73(2), it says, subject to the provision of the Constitution, the legislative power of Sierra Leone is vested in Parliament. Parliament may make laws for the peace, security, order, and good government of Sierra Leone. Then you come to subsection 74(1)(a), where they talk about members of Parliament shall comprises the following. It's a one member of Parliament for each district, who shall, subject to the provision of the Constitution, be elected in such manner as may be prescribed by or under the laws from among the peace, who under any laws are for the time being the paramount chiefs are. B, it says short members of Parliament may prescribe who shall subject to the Constitution. This just to tell you about the functions of Parliament. Parliament now a whole body, and make it tell you, because thank God, me daddy that be former parliamentarian. I begin going to Sierra Leone Parliament at the age of 4, when my papa that be member of Parliament. My papa don't serve as 2 terms, my late daddy serve 2 terms as Parliament. And they have the do's and don'ts of Parliament. And you quote section 91 of the 1991 Constitution, we talk about except it's a voting in Parliament. It says except as otherwise provided in the Constitution. It says any question for decision of Parliament shall be determined by the majority of the vote of members of Parliament and voting. It said the person presiding in Parliament may cast a vote whenever necessary to avoid
99 section 99, I believe. We talk about privileges, immunities.
Good. They talk about, yes, they go to the called parliamentary privileges and parliamentary immunities. But however, they have what they refer to as contempt of Parliament. They have what they call contempt if facicuria and other legal contempt. For example, these are not legally binding. They are not embedded in the Constitution, but they have the force of law. Like, for example, the will of Parliament, when once the president don't enter the Parliament, the way they give in speech, nobody know they can inside again, people they know they go inside, they know they come on and do. And they go to the call parliamentary contempt. But however, if like what they say, if it don't come up from the members of Parliament themselves, like how they say, like how people that they say, then like Honorable Guevara is a lawyer, Honorable Tawa Content a reputable Sierra Leonean, we get a constitutional mandate where people they vote for. Because like I just say, before you become a member of Parliament, you have to be voted for. And I believe say they get the right frame of mind and they know what they know. Because they have parliamentary committees in Parliament. When you don't become member of Parliament, they get different, they can put them to different committees. And corruption here, they happen. What's in a corruption? Corruption is simply they appoint you for doing work. Don't you know they do work, or they appoint you for represent you people there. Don't you know they represent you people there? When I just gap when they pass the law, either because on a favor government, or either because on a favor one party, or sort of on a favor of the particular bill, or sort of you they get direct benefit. So that make I respect like people like Honorable Tawa, when I member of Parliament, we willingly say they resign from a committee. Because I believe say so many things they go on, we're not good with them. And Honorable Guevara, when I a lawyer, we in self na a landlord, I'm a landlord senior, and a lawyer, we say, well, 1 or 2 things happen in Parliament, we make, but they get what they call contempt. There are certain things what they do as a member of Parliament. That's why you are called honorable. And if you see them, are they legal opinion? Are you speaking them? Are you saying them in the capacity of as members of Parliament? or are you saying them as an ordinary person? But when you talk about parliamentary immunity, the Constitution gives them the mandate, just like a priest, where he then in pulpit, anything in the top, or not for bring an action against her. Where you then at the well of parliament, because you're not honorable members of parliament, where they say things as long as they are legal, as long as you are saying them in all honesty in representing the people, which falls in line with your fundamental human rights as Chapter 3 of the 1991 Constitution, then they should not reprimand you for this. They not for bring action against them because you they stifle or muzzle the member of parliament. When you do that, you bring what they call retaliation against the person, where they make the person not they doing work. When you do that, they make the person not they get what they call in freedom and liberty. And now that I don't see in our parliament. But by and large, the problem of parliament not emanates, it not just start just now. You go remember, say, who conducts the Sierra Leonean conduct a presidential and parliamentary elections. And when they conduct an election day, the people of Sierra Leone overwhelmingly voted for a president, for a SLPP president. When I President Julius Maada Bio, and they be overwhelmingly vote for the All People's Congress Party for get a majority seat in parliament. What will be happening? The government and use constitutionality, this same law. Now we the lawyer there, now we the police country. If people are not agree for say this, and me Patrick Sophie they say this today. Now the lawyer then, the so-called educated people then at the country. Now they're the police country. Why? We all sit down, we see what will be happening in parliament where people that we become with fracas. We make people that then begin fights in parliament. Why? Because they use some law then for pull some members of parliament na parliament where they say they not be get right for the day. And unfortunately, then case they not caught, what happen we all know. They don't ask them people that they out of the world of parliament. They don't get a ruling against them. And when we conduct an election at parliament, forget a speaker. When we end up forget an SLPP speaker in the person of the landed lawyer, Honorable Alpha Cherno Bundu, where now the Speaker of Parliament. And they go to the call qualification of members of Parliament. So the law, now law people that they use, now law, now I'm going into politics, it's always good for let you study law. And now law people that they use, now law the government they use for put out people then. Now law the members of Parliament they use because
so make a pause you there if you not really mind, although now the same parliament we still talk about. Would you say, Mr. Sovi, that what you explain so to the general public, the Sierra Leonean people, some of these contradictions that I talked about earlier on, some of these spasms when they take place inside parliament, because we therefore remember say that this they happen between themselves. Is it as a consequence of waiting you they explain so that from the genesis, from the word go, from the very beginning, a speaker was elected under dubious and questionable circumstances. The largest party in a parliament in opposition, their numbers were reduced, and according to what we understand now for make them irrelevant, because politics now they play inside the House of Parliament. We're supposed to be a big house, a house of honorables, and clean and do the people and business. But here is the thing. Now the question again, all of which you explain and which you will try for arrive at. Could we say this now the chickens and they come home to roost because of what will be happening from the very beginning of this particular parliament, where the speaker was elected on a questionable means, and then the opposition party, which had the largest number in parliament, were relegated to becoming second largest party instead of the biggest opposition party. Now, the consequences are in line with so now, could that be?
Yeah, well, I can say yes and no. Yes, because the sitting government at the time, say, if President Bio, if they get a parliament where the majority, law assumes that the Speaker of Parliament will be an APC member of Parliament to become Speaker, and where the APC will get a majority seats in the Parliament by then what if it don't happen? If it don't become hard for like the president able pass the bill, like they will pass law then, because they go to the call parliamentary rules, they go to the call dissolution of parliament, they go to the call parliamentary, they get their own committee there, they get their own parliamentary jobs there. And one of the main role of parliament now that then they for make laws. But the moment where you don't get the Speaker of Parliament from the opposition, then it therefore become tough for they able pass any bill because they therefore going to vote. Law assume say the Speaker of Parliament that be Cherry Coco or any member of APC member of Parliament, or APC get a dominated number of majority as against a SLPP. Then any two candidate going to vote and you go find out the SLPP go lost. Or C4C and the other people, then a small number they get. So waiting, I don't want to call them dubious because waiting they do legal. And as a lawyer, then go through the rights procedure, they go through the constitution, they go to the call qualifications of a members of parliament. And section 75, subsection 1 of the constitution, it says subject to the provision of subsection 76, it says any person who is a citizen of Sierra Leone otherwise than by naturalization and has attained the age of 21 and is an elector whose name is on the register of electors under the Franchise and Electoral Registration Act of 1961 and under any act of parliament amended or replacing that act, and is able to speak and to read English language with a degree of proficiency sufficient to enable him or her to take the active part of parliament. It says shall be qualified for elections and as such member of parliament. So with constitution, clearly make provision for order for big members of parliament. Now, that there the law come inside. Why they say people that they use law for to foot the company. People that they take advantage of the law. You know the law, that's why they say the lawyer is as good as his case. Because of some reports that be come out against the members of parliament there, where they say some not meets the qualification for become members of parliament. Either they don't go to parliament through dubious means or fraudulent means, or they get one or two question marks against them. So that be asked, that be warrant the court for right na parliament, say them people they are, because you get for subscribe to an oath, they get for vote for you, and they go to the constitution clearly make under section 76(1) disqualification for members of parliament. And as some of their laws here that be used. Well, I will read to people there. It says no person shall be qualified for elections as members of parliament if he is a naturalized citizen of Sierra Leone or a citizen of a country other than Sierra Leone, having become such a citizen voluntarily or under a declaration of allegiance to short countries or A and B. That way means say some man that be vote for him, but now be to see the final state. Let's say they vote for you. Then later somebody say, oh, Mr. Kroma, Mr. Prince Kroma has to see more than American citizen. But automatically, even if they don't vote for you, you don't win, they go to the call petition. Then they keep petition you. When they petition you, they're going to court, the court find out say you get to see, then they can boot you out. Also, it says if he is a member of the commission established under the constitution or a member of the armed forces or Republic of Sierra Leone, or empowered a public corporation established on an act of parliament, has been shot a member of office employed within 12 months prior to the date which seek to be elected of member of parliament. Before you become member of parliament, if you do not belong to the army or a civil service or other members of organization, where money they emanate from the consolidated.
So Mr. Sovi, I'm almost tempted for interject there because the clarity where you make, I mean, it's so well defined. But the question, I want juxtapose waiting happen on the other side. So yes, they use the law against one side, but then the other side also injunct a good number of their own MPs, I think, on the same basis. But the system, the judiciary system, happened for look into only one side of a case. In other words, the case brought forward by government, whereas a decision has already been made. And then with the other one that will bring them complaint, we are yet for about the case. Why is it? It seems like a double standard. And why would there be a double standard if Kuku Jumuku no they under?
Well, good. You call a double standard, but the Constitution of Sierra Leone don't tell we say the only institution will get right for interpret laws, because most of them complain that they were subject to interpretations. So some of the allegations, they were ambiguous, they were big. And the only institution of Sierra Leone will get right for interpret the Constitution at the Supreme Court, and nobody else. That's what the Constitution says. That's one. Two, the duties of the judges and the duties of the courts, they get the exclusive right for determine what they do. But however, because of the judiciary get an independent, quote unquote, the judiciary get an independent body, they get right for take action for look in all cases when not they happen in Sierra Leone. And because of, I don't just tell you say, because of the nature of the system, where now the president, they appoint the chief justice, now the president, they appoint the attorney general, now they appoint members, and will not get a division between the attorney generals and chief justice and minister of justice. You find out that most of the things that already happen in Sierra Leone.
Oh, come on, sister, stop that.
You find out that all the things that already happen in Sierra Leone and get some political undertone. So the president will look, somebody will tell you, say, well, the president very, very independent, put on that in the day, but the president now they appoint the chief justice. So things like that, now they don't see the independence of the judiciary, we will not see. Now they don't see the independence.
We lost,
hello?
We lost we guess briefly.
Hello?
Yeah, we lost we guess briefly. But he has to cut. Definitely has to come back. Mr. Sovi will still be, and yeah, we lost you briefly. I think you're back. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Sovi, you hear me, sir?
Hello?
Mr. Sovi?
Yes, sir. Adea. Hello?
Okay, he's on. Okay, well, you just continue. Continue.
So, now the same law they use, that the independence of the judiciary, the independent judiciary, the judiciary.
Yes, the audience really glued to you, that they listen to you very keenly. We lost you from here, but you were still live. So just continue with your flow,
the
please.
Judiciary.
Yes, the audience, they listen to you keenly. Then just put a day, say you should continue, then they hear you live. So you are back anyway. I'm glad when the Anti-Corruption Commission go today and lecture on judicial independence. And when it talk about the difference between politics, the independence of the judiciary, and law. So now the same law, the judiciary, the Sierra Leone judiciary will be independent. So they for look into that case then they. And if SLPP members of parliament they get problem, or C4C, or APC, or any member of parliament, just like what they do to APC them,
they for don't want to the SLPP members of parliament. But we not see that one happen. So now that make me talk, say, now the judiciary of Sierra Leone, most of them problem they how they come, now they come out. Now we will learn, not agree for talk true. We will learn, now we bend the rules for fit with comfort. So until and unless we do waiting right, we continue not go able to go before, because the president is just one man. You get the other people them way for guide the president. Like the Attorney General and Minister of Justice is the principal legal advisor of government. Your role is to guide the president. The president not a lawyer. Now that make that they appoint them people then. They make the president get legal advisor then. But in most often than not, what they happen in our country, are they so feel for president then? President Kroma, President Bio, because the people then whether they appoint na them position the day, they get the qualifications for holding office then they, but in most often than not, that they malfunction. They know they advise the president in the genuine way. They advise the president on waiting the fit them pockets. Now that they make you see like even the case come like when them like Paulo in case come for treason, where the Attorney General by them put something there where they can go to parliament, and thank God for the landed lawyer Abdoulaye Okonte, where now one of Sierra Leone's best lawyers, I can challenge anybody, were able to define within that treason, were able to talk, were be able to give the rule at the end of the day, because that treason, it get for deal with somebody in life, we make, they're not able to find Paulo for treason when at the highest punishment in the country. At the end of the day, because of himself go with gun, na parliament, na state house, as a formal internal and defense minister, as a landed lawyer. Paulo is a lawyer. Paulo na lawyer, he get an LLM. And there are certain, you don't make security details.
Okay. Let make some quick announcements and move to the next question.
No problem.
I want to make some quick announcements and move to the next question, Fambulem. Brother Kamara, are they hearing you loud and clear? But of course, you get a choice not for be a member of a political party. You get a choice, but you also get for remember, say you get a civic responsibility. Because now listen, so you get a stake as a citizen of the country. Somehow you have to perform your civic duty, some kind of a function as a citizen, okay? That in itself, they give you right and more stake, and it gives you like peace of mind because at least you do contribute to your country. Yes, people can become somehow detached from politics because of the way our politics they go. But remember, if you don't partake in the process, then the process where you frown on or the thing where you frown on, you get a chance for let it flourish because you're not speaking against it. So you should become proactive. You should become an activist somewhere. You don't have to be a member of a political party. There are many other things you can do. A civic group, things anyway. I will talk to you later because we did on that kind of program and the unions they need for become very proactive. They need for speak up their minds. You not necessarily get for belong to either party, APC or SLPP. And I remember there are 17 T's. 7 parties. So, but who other party then exist? Mr. John Bosco, your point. I will sign you on to the then and now. I promise you that I will do that. Yeah. Okay. So, Fambulem, just quick 2 announcements. Say one of the local restaurants don't become or they become like a franchise. So then they open and place in a Brixton. In fact, they open. But just for announcing the place open and they do well. And if you want to go there, you get for observe the social distance rules. So therefore you get for book, you get for call. Okay, not so because now we own local restaurants. You get for The man they host businesses then they. So if you need a place for organize your business, your birthday party, wedding anniversary, it's heavy enough. I think the top they take about 100, the bottom they take about 50 people, and that's quite a lot of people for putting one place. Thank you very much. Also tomorrow, we get the publisher, one of the publisher and a journalist of the Africanist Press. Then when they can release them bombshell then about corruption. Inside bombshell then about corruption will be on this platform tomorrow, same time. For today, we have a brother from the United States, a Sierra Leonean and distinguished Sierra Leonean in person of Mr. Patrick B.K. So the junior distinguished scholar. Mr. Patrick, I mean, definitely committed that you'll be back on this panel, on this platform, because there's so much that you get for in terms of politics, law, and governance. And this is what we are trying to talk about here tonight. I want to go back to the parliament because the parliament is so critical now, and it looks like one of the most major institutions in the country, if not the major one, because inside it, now then you get representation from all over the country inside our one grain host day. But here is the thing, the question I want to ask you, Mr. Sovi. You obviously talk about a little bit, and we talk about section 99 of the Constitution, the 1991 Constitution. We talk about parliamentarians, their honorables there. In other words, waiting at the privileges, waiting at the immunity, but a vague, 99 vague. And whether they talk about constitutional review, where I would like for let you up more span later about constitutional review, waiting warrant, who side the need for look. But when people elect them parliamentarians to parliament, Mr. Sobi, and then a group of parliamentarians, them, you suspend them, especially if the ground's not strong enough. Because in this case of these two parliamentarians, if not four, one was attacked for doing things within, another was attacked for doing things outside, which is one spoke to the BBC and it's like when you pull secret nado, and another one challenged them, on the inside. So obviously the contradictions are there. But when they suspend them, how doesn't this affect the constituents them? And will that be a fair play? Because in the absence of them, then how are the constituents represented, Mr. Sobi?
Now serious question you ask you. And I can take you directly to the Constitution. Section 91, subsection 1 of the 1991 Constitution talk about parliamentary privileges and immunities. Where states say, it says subject to the provision of the section, but without prejudice to the generals of section 97. It says no civil or criminal proceeding shall be instituted against a member of parliament in any court or place out of parliament by reason of any said by him in parliament. When we say, it is clearly stated in the Constitution, when we say, then people that they not just did it by themselves, honorable give out not did it by himself. Now, a people of Sierra Leone in constituents will form that them vote for them, and it represents them people then they. Honorable Tawa Conte himself, not in a parliament by himself. Now make parliament, they grab and go there by yourself. Now people then vote, and their voice of the people that they, the moment when they suspend any one of the member of parliament that they don't stifle then people then voice them, they don't one. We're contrary to section 3 of the 1991 Constitution. However, now this is not the beauty of the law. Under the same 1991 Constitution, they were to the call contempt of parliament under section 95. And they go to the call contempt if Kiriana law. Section 95 say, it say any act of omission which obstruct or impede parliament in the performance of its functions, on which obstructs and impedes any members of or officers thereof in the discharge of his duty, or affront the dignity of parliament, to which tend to either directly or indirectly to produce such a result, shall be a contempt of parliament. So now the beauty of the law, that's the way you talk to the dog, you talk to the bone. Obligations come with responsibility. as a member of parliament, you have certain parliamentary immunities, you have certain parliamentary privileges. However, under the contempt of parliament, they can bring you in. And that's the parliament, because beautiful states say, one of them go out and talk about the BBC. In which capacity that person they go and talk na BBC? If you talk, Sierra Leone get the right of free speech, where falls under Chapter 2 of the Constitution. You can talk freely, like America, the First Amendment rights. I can talk anything against President Trump. But however, under contempt of parliament, if you say something where they bring the dignity and other things against the other member of parliament, and something where you say, we go bring dispute, even when I truly the talk, then the Speaker of Parliament or the House can bring contempt when they don't do so. And also they go to the call criminal proceedings. It says, whereas when at section 96 of the 1991 Constitution, it says, whereas an act of omission, which constitutes contempt of parliament, is an offense under the criminal law, the exercise by parliament of the powers to punish for contempt shall not be a bar to the institution of proceedings under the criminal law. And an officer, the crimes that they commit, don't reach that side of it. Waiting a omission. Under criminal law, they have what they call duty of care. I don't tell you, in a law with people that they use for either gain advantage or for stifle people.
But that sounds very contradictory, because earlier on, if I did listen to you well, I hear something like nothing of that kind they can be brought against a member of parliament. This is not part of the privileges and immunity where they enjoy.
Yes, that's so the law say. That's so the law say under what they call parliamentary immunities, they're not for bring any action against them. They're not for bring any action, whether civil or criminal. Now that's the under parliamentary immunities. But however, under contempt of parliament, so now the same constitution talk now the beauty of the law. If one of the member of parliament or the speaker or the parliament and the clerk of parliament feel say, what the honorable give out talk so, this secretary boss show, it don't bring to distribute the other house of parliament or the other members, then they can bring you for contempt. So now this day with conscience, like I strongly believe, always the honorable they talk as Sierra Leoneans, and they talk for let them really prove serious, then go there on the people there. And they're not for those suspended, they're not for those do nothing. But the laws of Sierra Leone, the constitution, the people they all write them, they give so many powers to the Speaker of Parliament. They give so many powers to the president. And they give so many powers to parliament. And they can bring them for contempt where they don't do so, where until and unless that parliament back there they get for go back and they get for left them for let them perform their duty. Because one, they get what they call double jeopardy in law. All waiting member of parliament they say in a parliament or waiting honorable give out and say or Ottawa County, they say as member of parliament. So parliament not get no rights under the law for bring civil or criminal charges against them. And it also falls in line with their inalienable rights, the right to free speech under Section 3 of the Constitution. It also falls under international law and best practices under the Universal Declaration of Human and People's Rights. However, under the laws of parliament, under parliamentary procedure and parliamentary dissolution of proceedings, the Speaker gets right for bring charges against them for contempt. And the law, the law he talks so, the law he talks so. It depends. Now make lawyer, they say lawyer know they go heaven. So now this that will problem at Sierra Leone. They're not for bring charge because they said all those things in the interest of their people. And then they represent the people then. And what did they say? It just sounds like where the Supreme Court they ask for let them when they sign bench warrants for a outstanding Sierra Leone international lawyer Augustine Mara, for what he say na Facebook. Yes, because under laws they have what they refer to as legal opinion, but the Supreme Court get enormous power. Now the only institution we get right to interpret laws and they can bring an action against you, like you know, a lawyer. So now make the law, I don't tell you that the law with people that they use forbid the people then where they stand and defend the people then. So if me, now Speaker of Parliament, as he say what Mr. Prince Nkrumah talk against we, now truly they talk, Parliament corrupt, yes, we know they do duty, they take money, brown envelope for pass bill, because Parliament get right for scrutinize, for check each. Last like that people they already appoint. When president they appoint, they say subject to the approval of Parliament. Well, I learn with this. Say subject to the approval of Parliament. When me say, if they don't appoint you, Mr. Prince Nkrumah, let's say as Minister of Mines or an ambassador, you get to go through Parliament, and the duty of the parliamentarian that therefore vet you well. But because of the society porous, and then people then the Sierra Leone Parliament are the least paid member of Parliament in the world. So, beaucoup things what they call undue influence can take place. Like the Kenya parliamentarians are paid $10,000 or more. So, it's not easy for them to bribe them. So, when you go there, they vet you. But because of the parliamentarians that they are underpaid and don't, we are not honest to the people of Sierra Leone, we know they talk true to people that the people that they take government position. They stick the country at heart, but they get the country in mind and for their own self-interest. So the few people that when they stand out for talk the truth, then they use the same law against them when they're not the books. It just like when the old people that are against the criminal, like the 1965 Public Order Act, you go say something against the president or against party. So
yeah, but that's the point, Mr. That's the point, Mr. Sovi. These people have got an abbreviation attached to their names, you know, honorable, my brother, yes. Honorable, in the house of the honorables. And yes. It's a duty of care, one of the few things that you mentioned earlier, and an obligation. It's not a must. Now then they put themselves forward for one who serve the people there. In other words, for who serve the people there. So it's not about the money. Only when they get in there, then it becomes the money, because before going in there, they know what's involved. So it's either you go there, you take graft, you're corrupt, you know, for that you get what you get. But other than that, if not just mere sacrifice where you understand, because you know, say you don't get paid much, then a sacrifice for the people there, you get a choice. Don't go there. But anyway, we need to move on, Mr. Sovi. I'm really glad you know, because you really make some points then very, very clear. And I know some people in Canada with their minds different. And I can see the thumbs up, they go, they generate numbers, but unfortunately, we don't go too deep into the program and the rest of it. But you're absolutely right, because even myself, and that's why I've been saying, that waiting the parliamentarians, they say, was in terms of justice. And then see in behalf of the people. They were right. Wait, our mentioned corruption. It mentioned, it give evidence. He said, I get evidence. It mentioned SALCAB. It mentioned arm twisting. You know, everything it come up. So there were circumstances where it mentioned. So clearly there were, but it don't mean say because you did it, so you can just grab and kind of the public and hold the house in disrepute. And that are the things so they can gang up against you.
Well, to that before we go, now honorable Tawa, honorable governor, few of the member of parliament who I get high regard for, because you get what they call the conscience. Before you become member of parliament, you get for subscribe to an oath. You talk say me honorable Tawa, I go to parliament, and they go for go defend me people, they represent me people there. And already they talk so with people they know say not true. Brown envelope that they pass that parliament. Now that make the parliament, our parliament is a rubber stamp parliament. Yes, because the functions of the parliamentarian, now then the bulk of the law, now they for create law. We don't need as a law, we don't see, they don't pass a certificate of emergency under our Sierra Leone parliament. It don't become law under one day. The parliamentarian, they don't talk nothing. We don't see that they appoint people there as ministers where the anti-corruption or the recommendation of the Osmosis Commission be say, then people they're not forever turn member of parliament, they're not for turn member, they're not for turn minister. But they go through parliament and they came out successfully. Now the people that they blame the president, the normal President Nkrumah, President Bio, that they blame them, But now member of parliament, they get the problem because any appointment with president they give is a subject to the approval of parliament. So that make when they appoint you, when they go, the job of the parliamentarian, and therefore vet you fine. But because of the people that know say, well, why reach the parliament, I will know what for do. Then they go and then they come out clean, and at the end of the day, they say they are approved. I concur. And when they approve, I concur. The president don't get no option for let the people they work. And I pity the president, I pity most of the leaders. And I make you find out say like in the current like NATCOM alone, under President Buren dispensation, it don't change 3 or 4 different people there. The current
Mr. Sovi, you are absolutely right on this one. Now, they talk about the possibility, the potential of a constitutional amendment in which section of the constitution will need to be diluted. Even yourself, you talk about certain organs of government, the 3 organs of government, and how the presidency is very, very powerful. Yeah. So if parliamentarians then they do that at their own peril, but they get an obligation for do that though. But we can take what they happen currently as an example. Few of them, they've been in there for 2.5 years. Something definitely they go on right inside it, and this time they decide for come out public. We see waiting to happen that the vast majority of them, they reap then 3 or 4 parliamentarians, then when they come out and begin speak disrespectfully about parliament. And members say the ruling party, because we therefore look from this wider lens, the ruling party managed to get the majority, and we talk about that earlier, how the parliament be made up of a majority of the opposition party, but somehow through legal means where they employ, then reduce that majority of the opposition party, and like magic, they became the majority. And we can look at circumstances extenuating whatever will make that kind of thing stay for happen. The point here is, Mr. Sovi, the presidency is very powerful. So if the parliamentarians they want even tower, it get for be in the collective, not a few, because if now 1, 2, 5, you will be roasted. I guess you will agree with that. But I want to move on. I really want to move on to something because time, they kind of catch up with we. Because this issue of parliament is never going to go away. And imagine, the ACC, when mandated for investigate corruption, also accused Parliament of corruption, of brown envelope taking. Something will signify corruption, and you mentioned something like that just now in terms of confirmation hearings. When the president appoints somebody, there is this powerful phrase that says, pending the approval of Parliament. But maybe that's just academic, not in practice, actually. But the ACC can go through that process yet then graduate. Are they insinuating that they serve them in pass brown envelope for let them sour or appoint some of the members there? Because they went through the same process, if you know what I mean. You want to touch on that briefly?